With San Diego ComicCon sort of coming to a close, it's a little bit more complicated than that. I think some announcements are going to bleed out. And by the way, if you've been tracking San Diego ComicCon for the last several years, there's been a habit of information dropping the week before and the week after, and not all at the con. It's been a blurry picture. And I think it brought into focus this year. But I'm going to run through the news, the actual news, not the drama, out of the Comic-Con right here for you in kind of one place. Some things maybe you missed. Hey everybody, this is Perch. Here's a series of news, and I'll try and be really careful about listing the news and the commentary as kind of two separate things, because I'll make some predictions or I try and read between the lines of some of what was said. Unlike past years, this Comic-Con obviously was completely virtual, and it had a lot of mixed feelings. I mean, in general, I would say negative. People are glad it kind of happened. Look a gift horse in the mouth, but I think everybody involved would have much rather been at the con. And in general, just beyond that, Comic-Con had become such a Hollywood-centered and game-centered, but mainly movies and shows. And with a lot of the production, the filming shut down, it's also leaving a lot of stuff in limbo. A lot of panels had to end with, I don't know when this is coming out, or we shut down. And so news isn't as newsworthy. I think the tragedy of all this is that this was an opportunity for comics to kind of seize back some control. Comics are does not have to be shut down in the same way. Artists and creators could be working from home because that's what they do anyway. And there was an opportunity for comics to take back more of the spotlight, but they didn't really seem prepared to do it. And unfortunately, it kind of continued to wander. You also had the Eisners, which did take place, but the Eisners increasingly feels, and much like the Academy Awards, very disconnected from kind of the buzz and the attention that's going on with comics. There's some wonderful independent comics, some wonderful independent creators are getting celebrated at the Eisners. That's great, but it is as something that is really kind of springing from pop culture. It doesn't represent kind of the pop culture very well. It represents a tiny segment of it. And so there's some work to be done there, but this isn't anything new. Anyway, to the news. The biggest thing probably coming out that we haven't discussed a couple days ago is that Tom Taylor has all but announced Injustice returning to that. Now, he did a little teaser with an I in the same font. It's clearly Injustice. And if you're DC, it makes sense. You've had great success with the White Knight universe, with the Deceased, also by Tom Taylor. And so having him go back and do Injustice and carve out another little imprint where he can get a bunch of creators and he can kind of curate that line and maybe do spinoffs. It makes sense to go mine this. There's clearly interest in the Injustice world. So that was news that was well received by a lot. IDW put out a little handful of news. They're doing some coloring books. You definitely have, they're going to lean into Lock and Key, particularly with the success of the Netflix show. We have Lock and Key and Sandman coming up, but there's some other Lock and Key work. And I'm a fan of that series, so I'm definitely glad to hear it. New Sonic books to celebrate kind of the anniversary, and then G.I. Joe kind of leaning into almost the if you're old and you remember the 80s, there's a G.I. Joe Special Forces and kind of that level of storytelling. It wasn't in the news announcement, but it sounds like one and done type stories that really kind of go into the G.I. Joe mythology and kind of the people involved, and I think Larry Hama is leading that up. So all good stuff. Marvel announced that they are going to have a web comic series that may also get printed. There's kind of two different reports that came out of that. Basically, the Marvel heroes staying at home. Now, several weeks ago, I got tipped off by some people in Marvel that this was coming. I did a video about it mentioning that the heroes may be wearing masks and to kind of reflect COVID and everything that has happened there. Well, this is the title that was coming out of that. So good, my source was accurate. But we are going to see heroes with masks, not masks, but the COVID mask. And we're going to have them staying at home and doing their part to not go out into the world. I maintain that whether this is cute and funny, I think Guru Hero is doing the art for it. And a lot of people are like, hey, it's a fun joke. It's some lighthearted stuff. What are you so worried about? I'm not worried about anything. I still, the part of my brain that goes, hang on, these heroes have, invulnerability. And plus you've got like Reed Richards and Moon Girl and Hank Pym and all these people who are super geniuses. You'd think they'd be working on an antidote for this virus. I mean, they can cure like techno-organic virus turning humans into machines. I think they could tackle this one. So I just find my position is still the same. I think don't tap into these current events. It doesn't make sense in the broader Marvel universe, but we're going to see Spider-Man trying to cook because he can't go out to eat in Greenwich Village, I guess. That's what we're doing. Similar to Spider-Man, Mary Jane, the Amazing Mary Jane title appears to have been canceled. Now, this wasn't a San Diego ComicCon bit of news, but the cover artist mentioned that the series is getting canceled, kind of an offhanded tweet. And it just said that, so either it's getting canceled or so nobody told the cover artist and they're just assuming. Who knows? But anyway, so you've got that. Over in Empyre, which is the event that's currently running in the Marvel Universe, we've heard a few things that the Empyre Fallout, that Fantastic Four, the exact title is Empyre Fallout Fantastic Four, is quote-unquote the biggest Empyre book that's going to massively change the status quo of the Marvel Universe in two different ways. And it seems to be leading up very much to the Fantastic Four being heavily involved in the Kree-Skrull kind of conflict and how they're going to help to, reestablish these races that are going to get decimated by the Quadi, or who knows. But anyway, major fallout. That's apparently the book that is going to set the tone for things to never, ever, ever be the same again until we get to the end of the other series that's going on. But anyway, there you have it. Also, Iron Man is getting new armor. This was announced as kind of a big news item, and I'm not sure terribly why, because Iron Man gets new armor like every fifth issue now. So, and he's getting a new number one, new armor in his new number one issue that is also landing right about the same time. So, he's getting two new armors, and we should see his new armor show up in issue 3 or 4 of Empyre, and then a new armor in Iron Man number 1. So I don't know if anyone cares that Iron Man gets new armor now, but who knows? I mentioned this before that in the previous video that DC has this thing Endless Winter coming out. Been a lot of speculation because there's a character in their past that is it ties into that name. I continue to think it probably is not where we're going. Maybe we're digging deep into continuity. There's been a lot of different descriptions of this event, and it lands in December. So it's hard to say whether or not, this is it. Well, if it's truly going to get started in December, it's hard to look at this and say this is going to spin out of Death Metal, since Death Metal is not spinning out anything until end of January. So it's a little bit early for it to be a spin out. They did say it was a Justice League centered story. So maybe this is another like little short term Justice League thing. Maybe it's a Justice League Dark connection. We don't know. But anyway, it looks like a little micro event is my guess, but maybe it's bigger than that. We'll see. Over in kind of movie land, we have a few things. Hellstorm, which is a new series coming out that Marvel is pretty much washing their hands with. They're not going to be marketing or promoting it. The question is, does it connect into the MCU? And the answer is maybe-ish. If it does, it will connect into shows like Daredevil and other things on Netflix. But connecting, maybe just mentioning kind of on the street, like, hey, remember that Thanos stuff? That stuff was crazy. That's probably as big as it's going to get, and doubtful even that is going to happen. New Mutants is still scheduled to come out in August, so super. It's also very short. It's like one of the shortest movie things. It's clocking in barely over 90 minutes, as I recall. So still, in theory, coming to theaters, but I mean, let's be honest, it's not going to theaters, so we'll see what happens. The other movie that had some buzz, not comic related exactly, but Lovecraft Country definitely got a lot of buzz coming out of San Diego ComicCon, so that's one to look at. And then the final little piece of news, again, not really related to Comic-Con, but I did the video a while back about how Marvel is looking to change Red Wolf, the name, and we still don't know if that's actually happening, but there was at least some chatter about that, and the new I think Werewolf by Night is going to have Red Wolf in it, and they're still marketing it as Red Wolf is appearing. So maybe that name is staying intact. But one name that is not is Scalphunter. So this is one of the Marauders, and if you're noticing the little kind of character splash page in that comic, Scalphunter has been changed to Grey Wolf, which is Grey Crow. Grey Crow, no wolves here. So Grey Crow is his last name, apparently. and we're dropping like the Redskins are dropping the Washington Redskins are dropping their name. Scalphunter is no longer going to be Scalphunter. Apparently. So there you have it. Any other things that I missed, stuff you're interested in? There's a lot of indie news, and I'm going to try and collect all of that and display that as well. But, it's a different Comic-Con with a different feel. But leave your comments below, your questions, anything you may be interested in that I just talked about. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications if you feel like it. Follow me on social media. And most importantly, thanks for listening.